It connects to the east to other habitat. And we need to have that for our animals and the safety of our animals.
You know, Pam, a lot of folks, I hate to highlight that aspect, but a lot of folks do get anxious, whether they're in Avalon or Waterford. That's why it's so important they pick up the phone and call or go online, find a way to get involved with the Carolina Forest Chapter, because I'm sure there's little tips that can be provided of what to do if you see a bear. Don't get out of gun. I mean, you know, don't get too freaked out. Or a bobcat. But you've highlighted, obviously, this bobcat could rip your dogs up. These are 200 or 300-pound bears. If they're coming up to your neighborhood there in Avalon or Waterford, that would be a scary thing.
It
folks
would.
Need to call somebody, as opposed to taking drastic means.
Well, they do. And we don't want to hurt the wildlife, and we certainly don't want the wildlife to hurt our pets or our children. We need to educate our children. We think of bears as teddy bears.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, sure.
And we sleep with them at night, and our children love them, and we don't think of them as being a wild animal, but they are. And we do. One of the most important things people need to remember is we don't need to feed wild animals.
Don't feed them. There's no need to feed them.
No.
So folks couldn't go out, even whether it's the Carolina Forest Chapter, any of the wildlife action chapters, anywhere around our viewing area, whoever it is, you're giving the same advice.
We don't want to feed bears. We don't want them to live in our backyard. We want them to forage and continue on their way down these corridors. We don't want to do that. Just like feeding the migratory birds. They become very aggravating when you start feeding the wild geese and they decide to live here. The golf courses have had problems with them. We don't need to feed the migratory birds, and we don't need to feed the bears so that they stay in our backyard. We want them to go on in the woods and enjoy their habitat. And people need to know that right now in the fall, bears are trying to eat a lot because they hibernate in the winter. And they will be out foraging, and people will be having more sightings of them at this time.
I got to say, I've got a 5-year-old daughter. I've watched Bambi with her a couple times, and this is very indicative. We've seen the bears hibernating, but we've also seen the deer traveling long distances to eat and keep, in that instance, the mother keeping Bambi warm at times, surely in the winter times. But it's fascinating. It's been a great view there because you're highlighting everything really that children have grown up with. But that aspect is, we do want to think, we can provide for them, we can help them out, but surely they've done well for many hundreds, thousands of years without us.
Yes, they don't want to be put in cages. They're wild animals, they're not dogs, they're not cats, and we need to respect them and their habitat and their way of life.
What are some other, of course, you've been out to wildlife action many times and spent a lot of time out there. There's other things out there, and obviously some of the goals of the Carolina Forest Chapter, some of what surely growing the membership base. Dr. Lucan there, I believe. Share with viewers a little about him, what prompted him to co-found and now be the head of the Carolina Forest Chapter.
Dr. Jim Lucan and Bunny became fast friends. They have interests at Coastal where he teaches. Dr. Lucan has a son that's interested in wildlife action, that really enjoys the out of doors and going to camp and that kind of thing. And Dr. Lucan is interested in natural resources and saving those and preserving those and the education. Therefore, he has become interested in wildlife action and has become a very good member and working, and enjoyed that in Carolina Forest. He lives in the Carolina Forest area.
Right.
And like I said before, we believe in local folks solving local problems. We've had people in Carolina Forest that have encountered wildlife, that they've had questions that they needed answered. So another thing about wildlife action, one of our mottos is we believe in putting back more than we take.
I love it. Giving more than we take.
Giving more than we take.
Putting back more than we take.
Exactly. And if we all would remember that, I think our natural resources would be better, and even our own personal life would be better.
That's a very good point. Just last week I was speaking at something last Thursday night, and there were 4 words over the kitchen at the Hard Rock Cafe: love all, serve all. And I love that. It was a great idea, much in the same way of giving back more than we take, because it's easy to take.
It's easy to take.
It's a little tougher to give back. Clearly you and Jim and Bunny and so many of the dedicated volunteers.
Yeah.
And there's a tremendous board there,
Yes.
men and women, who take a lot of time.
Yes.
Heard Bunny talk about his daughter, who I think's moved back from the West Coast and has gotten real active
Right,
in
she
wildlife
has.
action. His wife, who's gotten active, and the whole family, as you said.
They are very
is really
active.
wrapped around wildlife action.
Very caring.
Right.
Very caring, and working with their community in Mullins. They all go to the camps, and they all do their part there, and just really enjoy it, and the campfires at night, and the kids are really experiencing things at these camps that they're not able to experience on a day-to-day basis.
Oh, yeah.
We've lost so much of that. To watch the stars at night. I had a niece, and we were riding my horse, and we were coming back one night at twilight, and she's a very bright young lady. Yeah. And she was about 13, and I looked up, and it was bright, and you could see all the constellations and the stars.
No.
And I said, Amber, look up at that. Isn't that amazing? And she looked up, and she said, yes, that's really something. She said, we don't have those at my house.
Oh, come on.
And I said, what are you talking about? Well, she lived in Cary with the street lights. You could look up, and you couldn't see a star.
Right. Right.
And we need to remember our natural resources and the heavens and the stars and the animals and all of this. I think it helps build character. I think it gives the children a sense of belonging to nature and how to deal with that. And they absolutely love it. They love the camps. They love the learning how to tie the flies, and they learn fishing, and they even have little water gardens. And it shows all of the plants and things that go in these water gardens at the fort. And it teaches them how to do that. And we would love to see some of the Carolina forest people that their backyards back up to our refuge.
Right.
We would love to see them have water gardens and backyard habitats and things of this. And it would interest their children.
You know, the fascinating thing that you highlighted, even for the folks outside of Avalon and Waterford and the yet-to-be-named development, everyone, not only in Carolina Forest, but all over, should be interested in joining the Carolina Forest chapter, supporting this 485-acre preserve there, and really wrapping around, because there are other benefits aside from having a beautiful backyard.
Right.
Even aside from the animals having free area to roam, what are some of the other benefits of the preserve there?
Just nature. The trees and the different plants that we have lost. We've lost so much habitat. We've lost a lot of wetlands. We've lost some of the plants and the native plants that we have in this area. And what we want to do, which is exciting and would be fun for children and adults, is to go out into this forest, to look at the trails, to see the animals, to record the plants. I mean, what a project. What better project for your children or adults could you think to do? And it's also recreational. It's a huge area. Anyone in Carolina Forest is certainly welcome to join, and anyone in the Horry County area is welcome to join. And I think everyone would benefit from that. And we need to teach our children that we don't throw trash in the forest, and that we don't pull up the plants, and that we don't hurt the animals, and that we want to love those and preserve that for the children and the other people to come.
And you can still create great nature trails without disturbing nature.
Yes.
I mean, and people can coexist, albeit, as you said, not letting your children run up to baby bears, because there is a mother bear close by.
Right.
And also not playing around with bobcats either. And there's probably quite a few. I'm sure that the gentleman, the volunteer who's interested in snakes, can highlight some things not to play around with either.
Absolutely, be careful.
Right. There's great ways to coexist, and of course you all are really going to further that. Who are some of the other folks? I know you've got other dedicated folks there in Mullins. I remember interviewing Frank when we were out there. And
Frank is our senior. Yes, Frank is our senior vice president of education.
Sure.
And he is always at Fort Wretch.
At Fort Wretch?
Yes,
Listen
at Fort Wretch.
I don't think we talked about Fort Wretch.
We did about that name, but as it was pointed out to me, that means that it's a fork in the road. And that is where Fort Wretch is located, in a fork of the road. And Frank is excellent. He does, and he'll be more than happy to speak at Kiwanis clubs or different organizations or schools.
Sure.
And educate the school children, talk about the land, the plants, the animals. He would be a great person
Yeah.
for any group to ask to come and speak to them about wildlife action.
Absolutely. Well, I hope you'll talk to him about getting back on the show. We'd love to get him back in.
Okay.
And the real driver for you, Pam, what really pushes you to stay involved in supporting the environment, is it because you live in the environment? It's because you're out there, you can actually see the constellations at night?
Yes, it is. I love that. And not only that, we have to have our environment. So many people forget that if we don't have our environment, clean water, clean food, shelter, everything that this provides, we're not going to be able to live either at some point. I don't mean that we should use the environment in a way that we don't go on with our other life and our development and the other things that we do. I don't. But your environment is how you live.
Those are great words.
And we need to preserve that.
That's great. Thanks so much for being with us this morning.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Stay tuned to more Carolina People with Pam Creech, the Senior Vice President of Environment, National Senior Vice President of Environment and Wildlife Action. You know, I've always screwed up the difference between slogans and mottos. You know, I've never really gotten them right, but it really doesn't matter. Take the time to write these two down, whichever is which. Local people solving local problems, and the desire to put back more than you take out. Put back more than you take out. What a great mission. You heard Pam talk about it. Bunny and his family and all those volunteers have been talking about it for 30 years. You can learn more about Wildlife Action. Go online to wildlifeaction.com. That's www.wildlifeaction.com, or pick up the phone and dial 843-464-8473. Pam Creech.